Hello, welcome to our big picture training. This is all about how all of our companies interact with each other and what each company does so that everybody that works for us understands kind of the bigger picture of what we do and all the different moving parts that happen behind the scenes. This screen is all of our current companies. So we have had a lot of companies over the years, and you will see a few of those because I am showing a few of the historical companies that are still kind of important to our history. But I do want to show that these are the companies we'll be talking about today. So this was kind of a fun thing to create here. Let me move my little camera. So this was fun to create because what it really shows is a timeline of all of our companies. So 2009 is technically speaking when I incorporated both sample therapy services and sample supports. So what what happened with that though, however, is that sample supports is a complex company to get off the ground, right? So it took me a while. It took us months of building policies and procedures and getting state approvals and getting Medicaid approvals and all the things. It took a lot of time to do all of that. So while I was building sample supports in the background with policies and forms and just trying to kind of get everything together, I was actually a therapist. So I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm also a licensed addictions counselor. And so in the background, I was building sample therapy and I was seeing clients and I was doing all the things that a therapist does. And I was doing that as kind of my day job while I was running sample supports. However, sample therapy services still exist today. So we'll talk about that one a little bit too. And it took us a few years. So Sample Support is a big company, and it took us a while to build it. So the first 3 years, I would say we were still kind of in like full hustle mode. I was having a child at the time. I was pregnant with my oldest, and she was born in 2012. And so I remember being pregnant and tired and working really hard those first few years. But they were kind of these fun building block years. You know, when I started the company, I wasn't sure what was going to happen with it. I kind of crossed my fingers and hoped it would take off, and it did. But as a result, I was building every aspect of the company and trying to understand how to run payroll and doing all the things. So it was a lot of pieces that were trying to come together during those first few years. I did start a lot of the programs pretty fast, just based on the need. So, and I talk about that in one of our other trainings of kind of how that evolved. But today, what I want to talk about is how all the other companies that work in partnership with Sample Supports came to be and how we work in partnership with each other today. So you will see this little compression window, and that's what it felt like. For those of us that have been here for a while, we remember how this felt, and it did feel like a compression window. So in 2014 was when we started Crystal Joys. Samples Restaurant it was built over time, but it actually opened in 2015. We then opened the Gallery, 1874. We then opened Martini's Bistro, and that was one that we bought. So we purchased Martini's Bistro. During that same time, we also purchased Broad Street Assisted Living. We built some food trucks. We had My Smother from Another Mother. We had the Samples food truck. And during this whole time, we realized, oh my gosh, all of a sudden we have 500 employees. We need a PEO. So instead of going to a PEO, we decided we're going to just go ahead and build a PEO. So at that point in time, we actually also own People Power PEO. So People Power PEO was pretty helpful there for a while. And for those of our employees who've been here for more than 6 years, I guess they will remember that we used to be People Power PEO employees before we closed that one down during COVID. So COVID happened. So there's my little COVID germ or whatever it is. And that, of course, happened in 2020. And that was a big change for all of us. And a lot of the companies kind of shook up after that. And so we'll talk about that in a little bit. But after COVID, there kind of became this new sort of renewal. And you will see as we kind of move forward which companies we maintained, which companies we shed, and which companies we have started recently. So here we go. So this picture is actually shows my family in Nebraska. So my maiden name is Dudley. So Carmen Dudley is my maiden name. And Dudley Moving and Storage is still an active moving company in Nebraska. We grew up in Lincoln, Nebraska. My dad ran that company. He took it over from his dad, who had taken over from his dad. So it was kind of an in the family sort of thing. But I grew up remembering playing in their offices, and my dad had these play trucks, and we would take long road trips in the cabs or the semis, and I remember all of that. And so I did grow up kind of watching my dad do that. So my mom was actually the one that in the mid 80s, early 80s, she literally picked up a box of rocks on the side of the road. She bought it from some guy who was selling rocks, and she started this whole company, Crystal Joys. So Crystal Joys is now one of the companies that we still own and we operate today. We've of course expanded it and made it different. But this was the company that I grew up working in. So my mom was definitely an entrepreneur. She didn't even graduate or high school. She ended up getting her GED years and years later. So she was kind of just a young hustler kind of thing, trying to figure things out. And so a lot of my memories were with this blue van in the middle here with my mom. We called it the Blue Eagle. And we would pack up the entire Crystal Joys shop. We'd put it in the van. We'd all drive to a Renaissance festival or a psychic fair. We'd set up the shop, as you can see in these pictures. We'd work the shop and we'd tear it all down and then do the same thing the next weekend. So a lot of my memories, this picture in the corner is of me and my mom. You gotta love the 80s hair. But this one is really of us while she's working. And that's a lot of my memories of my childhood were really sweet, actually. And they all include my mom. Like she was always making jewelry, or she was always working on the business, or she was always talking about the colors or which color of purple we should use. And it's funny because I still do that too. So I did have that exposure. So, not that I definitely grew up like understanding what being an entrepreneur looked like, and I grew up thinking that work was fun. So I think that matters kind of in our bigger, broader spectrum of how we operate and run businesses. Is that I've always thought businesses were fun. I never once heard my parents complain about a boss or their working environments, or you know what I mean. Like I just never had any of that kind of stuff, just because they were the ones that were running it, and so that was a good perspective. So I knew that I always, I think I always knew that I had it in me to do the businesses, but it definitely wasn't kind of the career path that I originally started on. And funny story, I actually went to school initially with a business intention because I wanted to work in like international affairs or something. And after the first semester at CU, I was like, I don't want to do this. And so I actually changed my major from business to psychology. So it's just kind of funny and ironic, I guess, the years later I ended up being in business anyway. So that's the background on that. My mother did pass away back in 2007, so she never got to see all the things I'm going to present to you guys. But this one is always a special one. So some of these businesses have some personal history to them too. So Sample Support is kind of our big mama company, as what I call it. And we started in 2010, so we are now 15 years old. I'm recording this in 2025. And it has grown into being a pretty successful a big endeavor, right? A big enterprise. So Sample Support is the main company. We have these kind of offshoots of sample supports within what we do. So Broad Street Assisted Living, we're going to talk about that one. And Sample Supports Youth Services is also an offshoot that we actually have a license for, and we're getting ready to launch that one. Sample Therapy Services is actually a separate company, but falls in the same branding of what we do. So our mission at Sample Supports is to eliminate institutional care settings for people in need. This is it has gotten much better over the years in some ways. We'll see how these funding changes kind of impact that. But when we first started, I mean, and there still are lots of people that are sitting in institutional settings because people in the community are scared to bring them back into the community, or they're concerned that they're not going to be safe, or they don't feel equipped to handle the behaviors. And when I first started the company, I had worked for a long time actually with people with disabilities through college. I had helped run a foster care program. I had done all these things, and I didn't have the same kind of fear about kind of jumping into something that was high risk. And maybe it was my age. I was young. I was 25 when I started the companies. But here we are. And so even 15 years later, I still feel the same way, where it's like this is important work that we do. And despite all the kind of drama and intricacies in operating a company, I still always go back to like this is important work. So everyone at Sample Support is working on behalf of people with developmental and cognitive disabilities. We are offering significant and innovative, different programs between residential, employment, behavior, day program. And our goal is to provide creative options to people most in need in our communities and to keep them in our communities. You can see over time that we grew pretty fast. And again, no experience doing it. Even my parents, they owned businesses, but they didn't have a lot of employees. And so the concept of having a lot of employees was kind of a new thing. And I had to figure this out kind of piece by piece. So you can see up here in the corner, that's our 5 years. We started in this little office on Kimbark Street. Which we still own actually. Now we rented out to another business. My favorite memories of that office were it was actually a house that we converted into an office, and it was like a 3 bedroom house, and it was all on one floor with this tiny little kitchenette in this backyard. And at the time I was like, this is perfect, like we're gonna run the whole company out of this house. And we did it for a long time. And it finally got to the point where I mean, our entire staff was like working on the floor, and we didn't have enough tables. And I mean, it was just wild. So then, it's kind of those moments where I had to realize like, oh, we have to actually make this into a real company. We have to do a lot of things here. So 5 years was a checkpoint for us. 10 years, we kept growing. At 5 years, this was our entire team. This was everybody. Direct care, everybody was in that one picture. 10 years, you go and move to this is just our leadership team. So the same amount of people in the picture, but now that's just the managers. And same thing with that kind of 10-year time frame at the the picture below. So now we have kind of moved beyond that, but it is interesting how we grew from me running it myself to 3 employees to 10 employees to 50, and now we operate around 200 to 300 employees and contractors. So now we've definitely expanded. So now we have 3 large offices. We have our Denver office, our Boulder County office, and our Northern Colorado office. And we actually just got a new office in Northern Colorado. So it's kind of fun to see how professional it's become and to see kind of it becoming a real life company. All right. So our services at Sample Supports, we offer residential services. And that is our primary service that we offer. At least it was originally. Now it has expanded to many others. But in residential, and this is for our employees that don't necessarily work at Sample Supports, what we do is we provide 24/7 care to people with cognitive and developmental disabilities. So anyone who is operating at kind of an IQ of 70, 75 or below, typically speaking, qualifies for services. These are individuals that might need assisted kind of living at an apartment setting. They might need a full caregiver, which are our host homes, or they might want to live with their family members. All those are options that we can provide to them, and we can receive funding from the state Medicaid, and then we can pay our providers ourselves, and we're responsible as a company for training, making sure that the care is appropriate, all those things. Behavior services is something we do and that kind of sets us apart actually, is that a lot of our team is really more clinical in nature. And so we're one of the few agencies, if not one of the only agencies that has a team as well equipped as we do in the state of Colorado to work with trauma, mental health, and behaviors, all in the same breath. So a lot of our individuals come from challenging backgrounds. A lot of people have foster care histories. A lot of people came from institutional settings, and so our behavior team works with all of our individuals to figure out what target behaviors they're showing and how we can work with them and decrease those kind of target antagonistic behaviors so that they can live successfully in the community, that they can interact with other people, they can participate in a higher quality of life. We then have our supported living services, which are individuals that are in the community that are living independently and may just need some check-in services. So we do some of those services. We did a lot more of those before COVID. Since COVID, we've kind of scaled back and focused more on the core services, which also includes day program. So we have hundreds of people every day across our 3 regions where we are picking them up. We are taking them to either our day program office or a community-based location. We're providing habilitative services throughout the day, and we're taking them home. So not only does it serve as a respite for their 24/7 providers, but it also serves as habilitative services. Then our supported employment services is something we're going to talk about mostly today. So this is actually what we became known for kind of early on based on all the different employment options and different businesses we started. So we'll talk about that more. And our youth services, we are actually a licensed foster care agency, and we have had several kids placed throughout the years. We've historically used this as kind of more of a transitional program. So when someone's coming into services that might be just on the cusp of being able to access adult services, we've used this to be able to get them into services and then move them through to adulthood. But we are also capable of taking younger kids. So it's something that we're discussing as to how we want to move forward. One thing to note is that we do a few really interesting things at Sample Supports. So we have what's called a Dream Project, and this is something that we rolled out to our employees in Sample Supports, which is and our clients, the people that receive services. And this is essentially just kind of it's a funding, it's kind of a funding bucket, so to speak, of us being able to help our team members. So if there's anything that people want to do or be a part of, that we want to be able to support them in that. So trying to kind of create that integrated experience of really, caring about our employees and their personal endeavors and making sure that we're connecting with that at work. And I'm always trying to kind of harness everyone's kind of superpowers, right? Like whatever they're really good at and whatever they're interested in, because whatever they're interested in is probably something that a client that receives services from us is also interested in. So we're always trying to kind of encourage that. These are two examples of one was an individual receiving services that got to play in a rock band. The other is an individual that wanted to learn how to ice skate and wanted to ice skate in a professional way. So both of those are just two examples of hundreds at this point that we have done with sample supports over the years. And we don't talk about this very much. We're going to try to talk about this more and kind of how we do this in the community. But this has been kind of a sweet thing we started a few years ago that still is carrying us through. A few things that we do differently. We are known for taking some of the more challenging and complex cases at the state and in our community. We compete, we are a for-profit business. We are not a nonprofit. We don't operate a nonprofit arm. We are a full for-profit business, and we are proud of that. And so we're 100% private owned. I'm 100% owner of the company, so it's women owned as well, which is nice. But more than that, it's that we don't have a board of directors that's telling us what to do. We don't have a board of people that may not understand our services that is dictating how we do things. At the end of the day, the company is led by social workers. It's led by people that understand what we do, and we're able to move really fast as a result, so that we're not waiting for different checkpoints. So the other piece of that is that we provide wraparound services. So not only if somebody went to the disability services, oftentimes they have to go through multiple different checkpoints to get all the services they need. But if they come to Sample Supports, we offer everything in-house. So they can come to us and they can have their residential needs met, their day programming, their employment, their behavior needs, all of it met at one place. So kind of a one-stop shop. That's our wraparound care services model. And then otherwise, we have always been really financially stable. And in part of part of the reason for that is that we've owned our own properties. And so I'm going to talk about that and how we've kind of done that. But that is a significant part of our success. I think that from the very beginning, we invested in our own properties. Any sort of profit we made over many, many years was put directly back into the business to just keep investing in spaces that we own, that we can control, so that we weren't at the mercy of landlords. So I'm going to show you a sweet video. This is of Morgan. This is Morgan's story, and this is a testimonial from her family as to the impact that we had. And what I love about this story is her family's so articulate, and also that this was a really challenging situation for us to work with as a company. And I think it was kind of one of these stories that helped define sort of who we are. And it also really captures that we did something that a lot of other agencies were unwilling or unable to do. So enjoy the video.
They've given us back our daughter.
That's pretty powerful.
Morgan McGinley.
Right, we have three children total, but Morgan is our firstborn.
Yeah.
She would have behaviors, and rather than who she's being served by at that time, addressing the behaviors and helping work through those behaviors, they chose to just not take her out into the community.
Yeah.
These are behaviors that we can't deal with. We can't get her out there in the middle of the community and have to deal with that. Ultimately, Morgan wants to be with people, but she got drawn into their drama. Then there were behaviors. Then she was being actually, withheld from what she really wanted. And what did that do? It caused more behaviors, frustration on top of behaviors, and
Correct.
it was just a flywheel. It was just a cycle. In contrast, Samples dealt with the issues
my.
up front. Not that it was easy, and not that it didn't take time, but it was being addressed, and Morgan was being put out there.
Normally, in many of the groups, we would see a divided staff. Everyone had their own agendas. There's only one agenda here, and that's to see that every child, every adult that comes through their door is given every possibility to flourish and thrive. These aren't staff, these are friends. These are co-workers, these are peers. Morgan's 30. Half of the people who are serving her are in their 30s. And she relates to all of them, and I have not seen one, I don't think one, that didn't treat her like an equal. In 2 months, we were able to see that we weren't getting a call every time something happened. They handled this. Sure, you'd get that call after they handled it, and you had to be okay with that. You have to know that Samples has good supports. They have good community experience. They know how social services works, and so I think their specialty is the most severe. We didn't know she'd be making jewelry 1 month after she got there.
Or mowing lawns.
Or mowing lawns, or elderly, or living in a host home with a 4-year-old and many others, and actually cohabitating very, very nicely.
Thriving.
Thriving. I mean, beyond thriving.
Thank you. Thank you doesn't seem anywhere near enough. I can't imagine our life without them. I can't imagine Morgan's life.
I think we started 3 years ago. We started to live 3 years ago. And now we're just blossoming. So going backwards is not something I can do. And I don't think in Sample's eyes, that's not something they'll ever let Morgan do. Samples, thank you. Thank you for my life back, our lives.
Yeah.
Okay, warm fuzzies. All right. The next company that we have is Broad Street Assisted Living. This is actually part of Sample Support, so all of our Broad Street employees are Sample Support's employees. Broad Street is an assisted living facility that was in existence before we came along, so we actually acquired this business back in, I think, 2018, as I think when it was. This is actually just a few blocks away from my house, and so it's right in my neighborhood, and it kind of does complete that sort of comprehensive care model for us, because with Broad Street, we were able to do the aging care model. With Sample Support, we work with primarily adults, and with foster care, we work with the kids. So really, we kind of have that full life spectrum that we are competent to provide services in. Broad Street, however, is unique that it is not Medicaid funded. So whereas Sample Supports is mostly, vastly, the vast majority is Medicaid funded, this one is not. And so this one is a private pay funding, or we have other different government contracts that we work with, or private pay contracts, or just community grants, whatever it looks like, or Social Security. So people are kind of coming in, and we're working with people as to how to keep them in as independent a setting as possible. I love Broad Street. It's very fun. These are actually some of our residents that had been in our place. It's a beautiful home. It is 11 bedrooms. We also have a live-in staff in this home. So we have a lot of options for live-in staff. Side note, if that ever becomes an interest to people, is that we do have various locations and various businesses that do require people to be on site 24/7. And when that happens, we offer free housing to people. So this is one of those options. So we have a staff that lives upstairs, and otherwise we have rotating staff that are all trained as assisted living facility professionals, and they work in Broad Street. So you may see them out and about, or you may see them at a training, but they actually work in a different place altogether and receive slightly different training. But this is an interesting one for if anybody is ever, working in Sample Supports or another company and they just want to try something new, like Broad Street's a great option for that. You get to learn all about just sort of aging care and dementia and different things that impact all of our families, usually at some point. So it's a great exposure, and it's a great thing to do if anybody ever wants any volunteer hours, or if they want to actually just change and have a different working experience. So Broad Street's pretty fun. Sample Therapy Services is also a separate business. So Sample Therapy Services, like I said, is the one that I started back in 2009, and I was just an individual therapist. And over time, I started to build it. And this company we really built on a few kind of the core things we built it on really were addiction treatment and parolee treatment. So when I was starting Sample Supports, how I was making my money, like how I was paying my mortgage, was through Sample Therapy Services. And I was working with the Department of Corrections. So I got the agency licensed as an addiction program, as well as a program that was approved through the Department of Corrections. And so I primarily worked with people that were out on parole or on probation, but mostly parole and mostly drug-related offenses. And that's really how we built it. We were doing DUI groups. We started all these different therapeutic technique groups with various people that were all over the spectrum. We worked directly with the Halfway House in Longmont and kind of grew it from there. We then became Medicaid approved. And so over time, we then started taking on more and more individuals. And now we're kind of a full functioning therapy office. We take all sorts of insurances. We take Medicaid. We still work with the Department of Corrections. And we have a team of therapists here that do this. What I want to say about this one, though, that is important is that a lot of times we have interns that come into us, to our services through sample therapy specifically. And also, if anybody on our team is a employee that's working in sample supports or Broad Street or Riversong or anywhere, and they want some experience doing clinical hours, while they're either getting their master's degree or they want just to maybe even earn their, certified addictions counselor certificate, any of those things, you can do that through sample therapy. So sample therapy is actually it's of course a separate business, but really the value of sample therapy for all of us is that we're able to offer these kind of wraparound services for people that have a lot more significant mental health needs, that our therapists are also trained to work with disabilities, which is very unique in this environment. And also that we have this kind of specialty addiction piece, which we see really, really common in our apartment settings and with a lot of our individuals who might have a trauma background. So all those things kind of work together. So sample therapy is freestanding. Our therapists do their therapy thing over there. And at the same time, it's also a great option for people that might want to just, again, try new things, get clinical hours. If they're going back to school, they want to get their master's degree. We have supported lots and lots of our employees to get their master's degree and complete their internships while working for us in the various businesses, including this one. So while we were building sample supports, the thing that kept coming up was it was borderline impossible to find employment for people with disabilities. The unemployment rate was astronomical. I mean, we're talking like 95% plus unemployment rate of people with disabilities. And the state was really pushing it at that point. They really wanted providers to step into the space. We were kind of a new provider, on the block. And I think because of that, the state kind of came to us really early on. They're like, do you want to help? And I was like, sure. Like, we didn't even know different. And so we started just kind of thinking, okay, well, how do we find jobs for people, and how do we do this? We went through all the training the DVR offers, and we became vendors through DVR, trying to figure out like, how do we do this? So over time, we went from 0 people employed to over 200 people with disabilities employed right before COVID. So kind of that was like our peak of employment. And now we do things a little differently. But it was a significant success. It still is. We still have people in like really incredible situations with employment. But I'm going to talk a little bit about our creative options as to how we did this.
These guys bring joy and laughter to the fort and into my life, and have brought a renewed sense of purpose since I stopped teaching, and I just really look forward to my time with them.
My name's Andrew. I love about my job here is working with the staff. Just enjoy the animals too.
So it's not just me that they bring joy to, but the entire staff. They're beloved by everyone that works here. And they're very efficient workers. So we would have to hire probably some temps or more staff to do the work that they do. And
we have over 50 employment partners at this point that we work with in making sure that individuals have the opportunity for meaningful and integrated employment.
My name is Doria. I'm one of the owners of Platte River Fort. And about 3 years ago, one of our employees told us about sample support, and we decided to give it a try. So we met with y'all and started working with you, and it's just been a great relationship, great for the business, for the bottom line, but also great just to have them around. And they bring a lot of joy to the place. People love working with them, and they're super hard workers.
The most rewarding thing is just seeing the excitement when they realize, like, hey, I'm making a difference and I'm actually helping these businesses succeed, and just really finding that pride.
Sample Supports is educating businesses to employ people with disabilities by really being in there and setting up those meetings initially with supervisors, hiring directors or whoever is that person in charge of hiring, and really getting in there and explaining to them the benefits.
No matter which business you're looking at, turnover is the most common problem that we hear. And so a lot of people with disabilities are not thought of as that asset to a workforce retention, but many individuals are looking for a stable and routine environment for themselves. And so businesses could really tap into looking at individuals with disabilities for that stability in really challenging to fill positions.
If they have an employment need, we can help them fill it. And we have a lot of individuals that want to work, that are amazing parts of the workforce. They just have to find the right fit. And that's really our job, is we take individuals that want to work, we have employers that need people, and we really just place them together and find this kind of perfect harmony is always our goal in the workplace. And then in the meantime, we support them within that. We make sure that they have the right skills and that we're working on skills they need, that we're talking to the employers to make sure that they're still happy in the work relationship. And our goal is to create long-term, meaningful jobs for everyone who wants one.
Initially, and this is kind of a shout out to some of our original providers. This is an older slide, but I still love it. So these were some of the providers or some of the other business partners that stepped in and said, we'll help, and honestly, this was a lot of just kind of individual networking. These were other business owners I knew in town, and I'd go and I'd say, hey, can we have somebody bus tables, right? Can we have someone host? Can we have someone help on your bottling line? Can we, whatever it is. And so Mark and I really kind of built this initially, and Mark was working at Left Hand Brewing Company at the time and was really, of course, instrumental in getting us to have a contract there. And so that was kind of in different times of employment. And over time, we were just kind of harnessing as many community partners as we could. I mean, we had 40 to 50 community partners at one point. Again, a lot of it pre-COVID. And then we kind of started to see that it started to kind of die down depending on the employment market. We're either kind of in high demand or we're not. And depending on the minimum wage and all these things that kind of happen economically, either companies are willing to help or they're not. So we still have a lot of our primary community partners that we still do engage with employment. And that's part of our job development team, is to go and seek out these community partners and be like, how can we work together? And what are the niche areas, the niche markets that you might need support with as an employee? And we can step in and do those. But that's hard. So that's a hard thing to do. But what's funny about this is that for some reason, I think we both thought, Mark and I, like, oh, well, maybe it's easier just to start our own companies, which is actually very comical if you think about that. So it's hard to work with partner businesses. It's also hard to start your own companies to provide these sort of services as well. But that's what we did. And so we after really trying to kind of figure out how to work with other community partners, we kind of hit some roadblocks, and we realized, oh, this is challenging, right? A lot of our individuals have some interesting behaviors they do at work that not everybody understands, and other business owners might be like, I'm not willing to tolerate that. And so we needed to figure out a way to increase people's job skills, to work on work development in a place that kind of gets it. And so we decided, like, why don't we just start some other companies? And so we did. So I laugh because, like, it's funny looking back on it. I mean, this was kind of like our pressure cooker. The first one was Crystal Joys, and actually this was my husband's idea. He was the one that was like, Carmen, like, your mom had this business growing up and now it's sitting in your dad's garage. Like, don't you want to run it? And I was like, I hadn't really thought about that, And I called my dad and I was like, hey, can I buy all those rocks in your garage? And he said, yeah. And so I worked out a contract with my dad and I bought the rocks and I took them over to this building that we had just started renting. And I found another employee from Sample Supports and we washed rocks for like 3 weeks. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And we set up a retail site. I had never done it before. I did it when I was a kid. I helped my mom with her business when I was a kid, but we had never obviously had a POS or anything like that in the 80s. And so all these operating systems we had to work with, and we had to figure out how to use the different technology, and all this was back in 2014. So it was fun, and it was invigorating to be like, okay, like now we have another business. And at the time, it's kind of the twofold intention. It was like, yes, we're going to be able to offer all these awesome employment opportunities to people. And this is also just a business. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a business with inventory and accounting. And I mean, it's a full scale business. We have mortgages and we have expenses and all the things. And so it's really running a separate business entirely. So all these businesses are built as separate companies. None of them are owned by Sample Supports. None of them interact with Sample Supports on a financial level. They're all completely independently operating, which is cool. But with Crystal Joys in particular, it was kind of our first attempt into being like, oh, okay, this is interesting, you know? This is interesting to kind of figure out how to have dual employees and how to work with people and train them in different ways. And so that's what we did. And that was kind of our first attempt at doing this. We started with one store in Longmont, and then we branched out from there. So Crystal Joys during this time, we'd grown from one store to 3 stores. And then we kind of exploded from there too. And so we ended up with 10 stores overall. But before I talk about that, I'm going to show you this beautiful video of actually our first store. You can see it's old branding. We have black shelves in the store. It was one of our first stores back in like 2015-ish. And an individual that worked there with her job coach.
I think that's what I call my love passion of making jewelry. I enjoy making jewelry, and I enjoy here meeting people that come in and go out. And I've been here 2 years with Crystal Joys.
I'm Kristen, and we're in Crystal Joys. I help teach skills in jewelry making. We try to have things that they're going to come in and go, oh my gosh, I need this for so-and-so, or I want to wear this. We started making malas a couple months ago, and they have been such a huge hit, and they're so pretty, and they're so much fun to make.
Then she showed me how to make these malas. I really enjoyed with them making these malas.
I think the hardest part was getting to figure out how to get the knots up there really close.
I know, that was the difficult part. What's one of the jobs that I enjoyed when around here, enjoying people that come here and buy jewelry from Crystal Joys. All the women should wear it to look more beautiful than they already are.
We do everything from making bracelets to earrings to necklaces. We do custom orders. In any given day, we might be making coasters or pendants.
We make them all the time, and we put the prices here and the tags. This is simple support to show people that we make them here Crystal Joys by hand.
I love telling people what we do here. I love the fact that I work with people with intellectual disabilities, that I give them that empowerment of having a job that they are proud to do. And I go, hey, this is a piece that we made here. This was made by so-and-so, or this is something that we're working on right now. I love when people come up to the table and go, what are you guys working on right now? Well, they are working on, because I'm not doing the work, they are.
Come down to Crystal Joys to see fashion with a passion.
Oh.
Come on now.
Okay, I did it better.
There you go.
If you insist.
If I insist.
I love that video. It's great. And we still, of course, make jewelry, and that's been a big focus of what we've done. So Crystal Joys has always had like a soft spot for me, of course, just because it's my family business, but also it's been so fun to grow this into a real deal. So we started with one small store. We then started kind of stepping up the game, right? We started saying, okay, what if we actually make these real retail stores? What if we actually make these in professional locations? And we grew it. So from like kind of 2018 again to kind of like that 2022 like framework, we built 10 stores across the country. And this was a fun time. We were traveling, we were building stores, we had designers, we had graphic designers. Like it was kind of a creative time for all of us. And for me personally, I really enjoy the retail aspect. We have a whole team that was working on inventory and managing all the product. And we ended up buying a wholesale company as part of this that was based out of Brazil. And so it was a lot of excitement during this time that was happening simultaneously with all the other companies that we were building and operating. And my model for doing all these things was really, I would just find the best leader that I could and train people up. Oftentimes I train people from the ground up. Every now and then we'd bring people from the outside. But what we do is so different and so unique that it's easier to honestly train people from the inside. And so that's what we did. And so a lot of our leaders in Crystal Joys actually started in sample supports, and we've had that happen both ways. One of our best employees at sample supports worked in the restaurant for like 5 years, So it's just one of those things where it created so much great like cross training and cross opportunities that we didn't have existing before, which was really awesome. And then the next big project we decided to do was like, maybe we should do a restaurant. And this honestly came from, Mark has always loved hospitality and he's always wanted to own a restaurant. So that was part of the decision making there. But more, we were really trying to come up with ideas of like, how do we offer all the opportunities to people, and not just one or two? Like, how can we have 40 people that work at a restaurant versus just one? Because we were running into problems where, whether it's in Crystal Joy's or whether it's in a coffee shop, like these businesses don't need more than one person to be there, 1 to 2 people. But a restaurant needs all sorts of people. Like a restaurant needs dishwashers and bussers and hosts and chefs and all the things. And so we just realized like this could be a huge opportunity for people to get some job experience. But again, we're starting a restaurant, right? This is not a simple thing. We actually bought a business. We went and got an SBA loan. We renovated the entire operation. We had to get consultants. We had to learn how to run a restaurant, which was interesting in itself. And then we had to actually run it. So when we opened the restaurant, however, those first few years were just so awesome. We had about 40 people with disabilities that were working just throughout the week, from opening shifts or closing shifts or throughout the operations. And so as people were kind of growing and learning, it was just an incredibly inspiring thing to watch. And the community really embraced us, and community came and understood what we were doing. But at the end of the day, we're running a restaurant. At the end of the day, like we had to have good food, we had to have great drinks, we had to provide hospitality and provide customer service. We had to have a whole chef team. And so it was interesting also incorporating this kind of historically kind of like a closed industry, right? Like restaurants don't normally do all this sort of outreach. And that's exactly what they were doing. So the employees that came in, especially the first round of employees, we cross-trained them in sample supports. And so we had 40 people without disabilities and 40 people with disabilities that were working alongside of each other, doing various, some of them needed job coaching, some of them could be independent, but we also had just our traditional restaurant staff that was training everyone at the same time. This is a video of when we were doing the diners, drive-ins, and dives on the Food Network. We were actually featured on the Food Network a few times, but this was the first time, and it was very, very exciting. So this is just kind of an example of what the restaurant looked like. You can see that it was really well done. We had designed the entire thing from the lighting to the brick to the whole deal. So it was really special to kind of have this video and show what it kind of felt like and what it looked like at that time. And you'll be able to see some of the individuals that we support as well. But the idea with this, which is kind of great, is that you wouldn't always know, right? The idea was that people were having exposure and we were showing the community that like, hey, this can be done. And that was really important, I think, for everyone to see like, oh, wow, like this is how integrated employment can really look. It was exciting.
I welcome the samples. Good, how are you?
Myself. And I'm not even a big eater, but boy, these look so good, I wanted to.
Thank you. Delicious. The gravy tastes like hot roast gravy. Yes. Woo!
Is delicious, really good. The cheese curds, yummy.
I'd like to thank my wife Carmen because she's the one that runs our awesome company where we get to employ people with developmental disabilities. And then I feel like it'll be a fun game if every time he says Longmont or anybody says Longmont tonight, we're all going to take a drink together. How's that sound?
Make everything from scratch, partly because I don't know any better, partly because those inefficiencies create jobs.
So every day we have individuals with disabilities that are hosting, busing, dishwashing, prep cooking. So over 40 people are currently employed.
Get out.
Someone just called right now and wants Eat More Beer t-shirts from Pennsylvania.
What you all doing, how you're treating your team members, how you're working with your community. You guys got a great program, man. Dude, you're awesome. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
fantastic that they were on Diners, Drive-Ins, Dives. We love the food. It's amazing.
What's up, Longmont? I'm Mark Sample.
I'm Carmen Sample.
We just want to thank you so much for supporting us, embracing our Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives roots, and loving us. Come on down. That poutine burger, that Korean barbecue sandwich are waiting for you. Thank you so much for supporting us. Go downtown, Longmont.
Boom! We got a lot of public accolades for this, so I'll talk about that more here in a bit. And then, you know, once you're doing one restaurant, like you might as well do two. So we bought Martini's Bistro, bought that one again, I think in 2018. 2018 was a big year for us. We did a lot of things. So we bought Martini's Bistro. So then we had two restaurants and we had people working across both restaurants. And from an operational perspective, also, it was helpful for us to have one chef over two restaurants and one GM that could work over two. So things like that were kind of easier as you scale it up. And at the time, we were also scaling sample support. So we were, and that company was growing. I mean, it was kind of an astronomical growth rate. And so all these companies were scaling at once. And it was a lot. I mean, we had a lot of people and we had a lot of systems and we were trying to figure things out. And it was a very intense and kind of fun and exciting time also. And I was also having more kids. So I have 4 kids total. I had two more during this whole time frame. And then I had my last baby in 2019. So from 2012 to 2019, I had 4 kids and also birthed all these companies. So I always talk about how these are my firstborn children. So I have a lot of kids. And then while we were doing that, we realized, okay, an event center, because now we had a region in Arvada for sample supports and we were needing more opportunities there. We did the same thing. We outreached all of our employment competitors and our partners and saying, hey, how can we kind of work together? That was super successful. We also kind of hit a wall with that. And so that was where we said, hey, what if we start an event center? You know, like that's something, we found this beautiful space. We renovated it. We just restored this historic building. We turned it into Gallery 1874. It was built in 1874. And it was beautiful. It was stunning. We offered events there, and it was a whole new employment opportunity for people with disabilities in that Denver area region that hadn't existed before, which was pretty cool. And this was kind of our start into the properties. We had already owned the restaurant, and so we had been very intentional as we grew sample supports and grew our property portfolio that we were investing in all of our properties again for that like sense of security of making sure that like no landlord could kick us out, you know, that we had that kind of ability as a business to thrive and succeed. We did beautiful weddings at the Gallery 1874. It was a really fun business to run. And this is an example. When we first bought this building, it was like a torn down warehouse practically. It was pretty rough. And so the team at that point, you know, really kind of built it back up. And this was kind of where Mark was inspired to get his own GC license, which he did eventually do. One of the awesome things about the Gallery 1874 was that it created a lot of fun, different event jobs for individuals. So everything from checking people in to coat checks to we had cleaning to we had event organizing and decorating. All of those things were super, super beneficial job opportunities for people. We also had an art gallery in this space. And so our individuals worked with the designers and they were the ones that installed the art on the walls and decided where it would go. So it was just a really great opportunity. And we integrated a lot of the different companies into this business specifically. So you can see even over here that, you know, we had Crystal Joy's setups in Gallery 1874. So we were selling jewelry at the same time we were hosting events. And it was kind of, it was a fun experience. And it really did bring a lot of interesting skill sets for people to be able to experience as part of their job skills training. And so while we're doing this hospitality business, we're building food trucks, we're building a catering company. We had lots of things. And by the end of it, right before COVID hit, we had 2 functioning restaurants. Martini's Bistro is a fine dining restaurant, kind of an upscale dining. Samples is a comfort eats, craft drinks. And then we had a Gallery 1874 event center. We had a catering company connected to that worked across both. And then we had 2 food trucks, Samples food truck and My Smother from Another Mother, which was a fun venture we did with one of our friends. So the community awareness we got from being on national TV was it was huge. It was great. We were so grateful that the Food Network and Guy Fieri came and kind of visited with us. We had several individuals that were just in love with Guy Fieri. You can see one of the individuals here in this picture where he had a hat that looked like Guy Fieri's hair. So, I mean, just like, it was wonderful. And he was great with the guys. We got tons of great just great awareness, right? That everyone kind of knew what was happening. The business was good too, but I would say more importantly, I think that we actually got better IDD awareness for our community partners. We had a lot more people calling us and saying, hey, maybe I can employ somebody with disabilities. And so it really kind of helped our employment program take off as well. So all of that stuff, and this all happened in that kind of like 2018, 2019 timeframe. So it was a wild ride, and it was very fun. And not only did we have some exposure on the Food Network, but we had a lot of political activism too, that we were featured as the startup business of the year. And so at the time, it was the senators Polis and Buck that came out. Now, of course, Polis is governor. And so, but we had a lot of politicians that came to check out what we were doing and understand our model. Kevin Bacon and his brother came to, to lunch with us one time. And so it was just so fun. I mean, this is one of many just many kind of cool things that happened as a result of having these employment partnerships. And it was just wonderful exposure for everybody. So all of these things were working together in harmony for a very long time. And to be fair, this was hard to run. Operationally, restaurants are challenging to run. Retail stores a little easier. Event centers, catering companies, like food service is challenging, and it's also challenging. It's just challenging to do with or without people with disabilities working alongside you, and that just added another layer of complexity that we didn't have any guidebook for. We had to kind of figure it out. We had to make our own policies and procedures because nobody had like a framework for how to do this successfully. And so we did. Then COVID hit. Okay. So COVID was a real thing for our company in terms of how we were impacted. We are licensed by the Colorado Department of Public Health. So whereas other companies may not have had impacts for a while, like we knew about COVID long before a lot of other people did. And so we were one of the first agencies to be sort of shuttered in a way, right? Where we got very restricted very fast. And as a result, we lost a significant amount of revenue right in the beginning. And so, I mean, it was literally overnight, that we had a drop in revenue of 25%. Eventually, these kind of funding sources came back around, but it was a very challenging period there for a few weeks. And at the time, we couldn't operate our restaurants, we couldn't operate our retail stores. It was kind of a wild moment. Looking back, it kind of taught me that I can endure a lot of things, as a business owner, and it's a team. We're a pretty skilled team. I mean, we must have made 90 new policies over a 4-week time frame, you know what I mean? And rolled them out multiple times a day. And just the whole operating team just kind of rallied. The whole company really rallied. I mean, everyone was like, what can I do? How can I help? No one tried to shy away from it, because at the end of the day, we realized that we are the last resort providers for people with disabilities, meaning if we don't go over there and give them medication, they are not going to get their medication. So we had to rally and we had to motivate people, all while really having a significant impact to our funding across every single business that we ran. So that was challenging. Just coincidentally, actually, we'd already started talking about maybe selling the restaurants. And so a lot of people don't know this, but we actually had contracts on the restaurants to be sold before COVID even happened. And luckily, they both went through. But that was a wild time too, of just not being sure kind of what was going to happen next. But during early COVID, it was a real affirmation for us of okay, we have to call some endings here. We wanted to focus more on sample support. We wanted to focus more on some of the property stuff that we were doing. And so we decided to call an end to several of our hospitality companies. What was beautiful about this, however, is that we were able to do it in a way where it kind of worked out for everyone, that we owned these properties. We had friends in the industry. Sarah, who bought Martini's Bistro, was actually one of our employees at the restaurant that I had called and said, maybe you want a new opportunity? And she said, yes. Daman and Suki now own the building, and they are running the Flavor of India from that building, one of our favorite restaurants. So I'm so excited that my two favorite restaurants, Martini's and Flavor of India, are in places we used to own, which is it's just nice. It's sweet to go in there and see everything again and see kind of all the pieces that we remember helping with. But it's also fun to kind of let that go, because the hospitality business was really also kind of becoming a distraction from the other core things we were doing at Sample Supports. And at that point, we had earned enough sort of credibility in the community where we thought that we could really take this far with other community partners. We've demonstrated the model, and that was a big deal to me, that it was we were able to show the community that this can be done. And so now it's a matter of replicating that with other people, now that we've kind of shown that it can be done. which was exciting. So during COVID, the first 6 months of 2020 was really kind of like calling an end to a lot of these hospitality businesses and refocusing our efforts. And with endings come new beginnings. And so then the next 5 years, we really focused on these 3 new companies that we're going to talk about. And now that we're in our 15th year in 2025, we just recently added a few of these. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. All right, this is I like this picture because when COVID hit and all the businesses were scrambling and trying to figure out the funding and what's going to happen, the SBA had a presentation of just like how to access SBA funds, and on one of their slides I was featured, and I took a screenshot of it really fast. You can see my minivan in the background of the picture, and so I was like, oh my gosh, look at that. But it's really I have to give kind of a shout out to the SBA because they were a huge partner with us as we grew these companies, and we would never have been able to buy properties without a funding source like that, and that kind of support. So that's how we did it initially, and then we kind of moved beyond the SBA. But during this time, they were critical in us developing kind of this backbone that gave us security as a company. I like this picture. The first one's of Mark standing there in the Gallery 1874. The next one is one of our team members helping me install these chandelier lights. And so it just kind of shows us like we have been in the nitty-gritty of this for a long time. We love property stuff. And we decided to start a company called Overalls Property Co., which is really managed by Mark. And we started it based on the quote by Thomas Edison, which is, "Opportunity is missed by most because it is dressed in overalls and it looks like work." We love that quote. It's on our wall at home, and we think that's pretty true. A lot of people kind of shy away from things that are hard, whether it is in sample supports or whether it's in a property or a restaurant, because it looks like work, but that's where the opportunity is. And so that's what we've always tried to remember. These are the guys that work on our property team. I had to choose these pictures because they're obviously like retiling a bathroom, but so it made me laugh when they see this picture. I hope they laugh too, because they spend a lot of their time remodeling bathrooms in all of our properties. But these guys are great, and they go between all of the companies. And so this is where our companies start to kind of work together. So we have Overalls Property Co. is really a property management company. It also helps with all the different properties that we own, but these guys are working across all the companies. They are an independent company, however, so all the other companies are working and paying for their time. But these are the guys that are coming and fixing drywall holes at Sample Supports. They're fixing, electrical issues at Riversong. Like, they're working across all of the companies. So they're kind of a backbone support to everything we do. So you may be asking yourself, does Overalls do job coaching? And the answer is yes, of course. So the Overalls team has also been trained as job coaches, and these individuals that have worked in Overalls have learned some excellent carpentry skills. They do tons of different projects. We also have contracts with different community partners, different city partners through Overalls, and so our team is able to go and do that as well. We've had full-time individuals working here with disabilities. We've had a lot of different people that are able to get work experience in all sorts of different skills and trades. So that's been great. And the Overalls team has been awesome and stepping up and being job coaches like everybody else and being able to take individuals all day with them. And, people have learned to fix drywall really well, okay? Sample supports. So our individuals really feel a lot of pride that they're working with a team that is doing all sorts of helpful things for all the companies and also all of our other partners in the community. Riversong Inn Retreat. This is one that we just recently purchased in the beginning of 2025 from some of our friends, some business friends. And this is a beautiful bed and breakfast in Estes Park, Colorado. So, when we were deciding whether or not to get this property, I definitely had to have a moment to myself from like, do I want to go back into the restaurant industry? Do I really want to do this? But at the end of the day, this is not a restaurant. It's we do provide breakfast. We do a buffet breakfast that is really great, actually. But this is really more of a hospitality business, and it's really more of a property management company. And so it's these beautiful, we have 10 different bedrooms on the property. They're all suite bedrooms with their own areas. It's 26 acres of this secluded, serene area. You can see all the different little amenities that we've been building over there. And so this has been a really fun project for Mark and I and for the Overalls team and bringing on new employees through Riversong. It's just been really great to kind of have all of our experience and all of our background running restaurants and running hospitality and be able to kind of put that together in this sort of bigger project that we've been able to sort of take the bull by the horns with just really quickly renovating things. And as fun as we kind of grow as a company, because we become more mature as a company too, right? Whereas, we have a lot of people in-house that can now do all the things. So we can work fast, we can get it done, and we can kind of roll things out and make changes really quickly. And so it's been really fun, I think, for all of us to be involved with this project. And so we have a whole new team that is coming on to kind of our shared company portfolio here over the last 6 months. And this is also going to be one of the companies that we offer as perks to the rest of the company for vacation and travel. There is tons of opportunity with Riversong and employment. We have everything from laundry to cooking to cleaning to guest interactions to getting the rooms set up to property management to building maintenance. I mean, the opportunities are endless. And so it is one of those things we look at when we're building properties or we're buying properties of like, hey, what kind of employment opportunities could this bring for everybody? So not just our routine staff members, but also all the individuals we support. I mean, one of my favorite things about the work we do is that it's not this kind of boring work. It's meaningful, challenging employment for everybody. And I feel like that's kind of my job. My job is to provide challenging and meaningful work. And then we find the people that want that kind of experience. And so it's just so great to know that as a company, we've been able to offer all of this different array of business opportunities and employment opportunities for people across the board. So Happy Vacation Homes is kind of this culmination of a lot of things that we've been doing in the background. And so all of these, again, independent of any other company, they're not associated with any other company, they're independent operating entities. But because it's all kind of a shared, piece with Mark and I, that we get to use these as great incentives and perks and benefits for the rest of the company. And that was always our goal with this, is we're like, how can we make sure that we can retain people that are working hard in sample supports, and what can we do that's different, especially because we have kind of a different skill set, that we're not just doing social work, or we're not just doing retail, or we're not just doing property management, like we're doing all of it at the same time. And so it kind of became this fun game for us to kind of piece it together. And a few years ago, we started rolling out 5-year trips to our employees. And that was great. So we started kind of sending them on trips to other locations and other hotels. And we decided, oh, maybe we should just have these operate within our own kind of domain. And maybe we can start running these ourselves and buying them ourselves and renovating them ourselves. And that's really what happened. So now we have Happy Vacation Homes, which is its own little living and breathing organism over here that is doing really well. And we're continually investing in different resort properties as we go along. If anybody wants a skill set in a specific thing, I mean, what's wonderful is that across all of our companies, we can probably offer it. I mean, from pretty much every sort of industry, from retail to hospitality to services to carpentry. I mean, we have all of the things, and so I love that. And when we go to RFP meetings, or we are talking to families, and somebody might be bored in their current job, or they want some new opportunities, like that's where we step in and we say, hey, we can offer that. And that has been a lot of work and effort that a lot of people at this company have put into making these opportunities sustainable and to making them something that is that really we're all proud of. It's like, this is something unique that we do. Not a lot of companies out there offer any employment at all. So the fact that we offer employment services that are competitive, that are integrated, and that are meaningful to the community, that these are jobs that really do need to be done, whether it is somebody with a disability that's doing it or somebody that is job coaching. And so, it's an opportunity for our individuals and services, and it's also an opportunity for our team. So I always remind people, and I'll kind of leave you all with this parting thought that, if you ever do kind of feel in your job stuck, or that maybe you want to experience something new, or try an internship, or just try a new job, period, just know that we have tons of things available. So I never want someone to feel like they are stagnant in their work, or that they're not challenged in their work. So if you ever do get to a place where you're like, maybe I want to try something different, just know that we can probably provide it here in-house across all of our companies, and you can keep the same benefits and the same kind of perks, which is really kind of a great thing to have. So we'll keep building, and maybe in a few years this is going to have a few more logos on it. I love developing logos. It's like my favorite thing. So so stay tuned, friends, and we will just continue to build our little portfolio of businesses and create meaningful opportunities for everyone. Thank you.